Welcome to the Channeling Spirit Virtual Summit, a platform where we have invited Spirit to share messages, healings, and transmissions with all of us. May this energetic experience help us to expand our awareness and to deepen the relationship we have with our higher self, our spiritual team, and with Source, however we define them. Thank you for being here and for taking part in this amazing journey. Welcome back to the Channeling Spirit Virtual Summit Season 4. We are in Episode 3, Joanne Angel BarryColon. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly this time.
Yes, you
Yay.
sure did.
Joanne Angel's been with us in the past, so she's another returning speaker. I'll let her kind of introduce herself. But I just like to talk about how she plays in the space of combining spiritual understanding with physical awareness and that kind of space. But I'll let her kind of talk about what she does.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, because I don't know, maybe I can say it a little better than you can, or you can say it a little better than I. I always love other people's spin on what it is I do. So, but a little story behind what I do. I'm a certified holistic personal trainer, very unique name. In fact, I made it up, the part of the holistic personal trainer. And what that just means is that I blend the physical and I call it the mystical world together to help women, specifically men by referral, release emotional, physical, mental, and psychological weight using many of my tools. In addition to being a certified holistic personal trainer, I'm also an intuitive healer, cosmic energy reader, medical astrologer, master of numerology, and I work with this amazing deck which I created. And I'm going to leave the long name out just for the moment. If we need to know it later, I'll mention it. But everything I do, I work with this deck, and it really helps me. It's a great tool that I didn't realize how amazing this tool would be in the work that I do. And I've been doing what I'm doing in the health, fitness, and wellness industry for 35 plus years, and in the healing industry for about 15 years. And it's an exciting journey that I am on. And Daniel, thank you so much for having me here.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to have you back with us. And so you were offering to talk to us about how to reduce weight effortlessly, or I'm kind of mispronouncing the words, releasing weight and ease and grace.
Yes, yes. The actual, how I provoke it and promote it as is releasing weight with ease. And that word releasing is a very important word. It's a powerful word, and it's a word I've been using in exchange of the word losing weight or lost weight. And one of the biggest reasons to that is psychologically, like anything, if any of us lost our favorite item, we will go and tear the entire house down to find our favorite item. And that, believe it or not, sadly to say, when we focus on losing weight or lost weight, psychologically, for whatever the reasons are to why we've called that weight in, we're going to look for that weight again to do what the reasons for why we called it in, to do it for that reason. So releasing it puts a whole different spin where we're not so quick to tearing the house down to find it again, because we've literally given ourselves permission to let it go.
I love that. I think that that's a wonderful way of looking at the process. I mean, I know myself, I'm about 30 pounds heavier than I would like to be ideally, but I'm actually comfortable with it. I mean, the other day I was in a conversation with a spirit friend of mine, and she talked about how we as humans have a misunderstanding of what our healthy body is.
Yes.
And I know that I'm okay. I know my body is perfectly fine and healthy, even if I'm heavier than I would like to be. I trust in my body to let me know if I need to do certain things, and if it's okay for me to stay being lazy, then it gives me that leeway. But I love the idea of looking at weight loss as a release as opposed to a losing.
Yes. And if you wouldn't mind, if we can just talk a little bit about the word you just used regarding lazy. Because again, I mean, for whatever your reasons are to why you might be 30 pounds heavier than what you want to be, doesn't have to fall in the category of you being lazy. You're making the choice to be 30 pounds heavier, as you've said. You know, and it doesn't have to, it's not so much about being 30 pounds heavier. That's where your weight is comfortable for now. Heavier or lighter, it's only as I like to put it, only a judgment to how we relate to our body. So it's not heavier, it's not lighter, it's what it is for now. And you might choose down the road to shift that when you're ready to.
Very true. Very true. And so where do we go from here? What would you like to talk about?
Where do we go from here? Oh, we go from here. The whole process of understanding that, yes, one can release weight with ease. And I think that's a big topic, because I think for right now in society in itself, we put so much effort and energy, specifically the energy process, because we're all energy. And we put so much energy on the thought of having to release weight. What is our why to releasing weight? Are we releasing weight because we feel we're supposed to be a certain weight on a scale, or we're supposed to be a certain weight based on what our doctor suggested, or what society expects us to be? Are we doing it because we're choosing to, or are we doing it because we want to fit in the so-called guidelines of what we're expected to look like? And what I'm looking to get out of today and share for today is to help people shift their mindset on certain words we use, and also getting into that place of releasing the words, I can't have this, or I have to diet, or I have to calorie track, or whatever it is. Releasing all that out and having a healthier relationship with food, which helps us to ease into the process of releasing whatever the weight one may feel that they want to release for their reasons to why they want to release it, not because they're being told to release it by a professional or by society. So really getting into that mindset of their big why, and having just a healthier relationship with food. That if I wanted to eat a bowl of ice cream, whether it's a cup of ice cream or a gallon of ice cream, and I'm choosing to do that, the way I would go about doing it is I connect with spirit, I connect with my body, and I ask, what does my body need from this process of having ice cream? Because I'm choosing, there's a reason why I'm choosing it, and that would be my body wants it. Now, if it's the spiritual components of maybe my inner child is craving it, and I'm going to honor and respect what my inner child is looking for. So that connecting with my inner child, connecting with spirit to say, okay, how am I going to use these so-called calories from ice cream? The proteins, the fats, the carbohydrates, the sugar, the salt, you name it, whatever's in it, and bringing ease in the whole process of this is what I'm choosing to do. And there's not going to be a negative conversation upon eating it, and especially upon finishing eating it. And just enjoying it and embracing the whole process of this is what I choose to do, and making that decision to do. And again, like I said, having spirit guide me throughout the whole process of having this ice cream, where there is no negative self-talk behind the ice cream. And even for that matter, take it one step further and say, hey, with this ice cream that I'm about to indulge and my body's going to feel good with it, this ice cream is also going to help me get to where I want to go regarding the energy that I need for my day. So I'm going to give the ice cream something to do upon me enjoying it. And then I also have my inner child feeling really excited because she gets to have ice cream. So she's doing a happy dance behind the scenes.
Fundamentally, it tastes good and we enjoy it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And why not?
It reminds me of something that Spirit once said in one of the channelers that I listened to, that was talking about how it doesn't matter what you eat. What matters is the level of vibration from which you are living in when you eat it.
Exactly.
And that's entirely my paraphrase of what they said. But it reminds me of what you're
exactly
talking about in terms of kind of connecting with your spirit team or your higher self or whatever you refer to as spirit, and kind of allowing that connection to, I don't want to say dictate, but to guide the way in which the body will process whatever it is that you're eating in a way that is beneficial and for your higher good, and that kind of thing. I like that invitation.
Yes. And when I do connect with spirit will give me specific tools to help me along the way upon eating the ice cream. And I'm just using ice cream as the example. It can be anything. It could be spaghetti and meatballs. It can be whatever food one loves. Because again, food is there to enjoy. But unfortunately, we live in a society that food has become taboo. That we're allowed to have certain things, we're not allowed to have other things. To me, it's one of those situations. Why is it and this is going to sound like an extravagant number, why would a 300-calorie salad be better for us than, let's say, a 300-calorie cup of ice cream? They're both 300 calories. And if we really turn around and look at the proteins, the carbs, the sugars, etc., and we give it something to do, and as Daniel said, and as I truly agree too, the energy, the frequency we come in at with what we're going to eat is going to make a major difference than if we grab that ice cream and we're already in that state of mind of, well, we're not feeling great, we're negative. And in the back of our mind, the unconsciousness, the subconscious, we're already in that negative self-talk. And ideally, the key is, in anything, when you're about to sit and enjoy a meal, whether it's a snack or a meal, you really want to be in that higher vibration anyway. So everything within your body, your chakra system, can be in flow of what it is you're going to indulge in. And that also includes when you're having a meal with people. Conversations should be uplifting, as opposed to talking about what's going on in the news, the politics, and anything that may not be as high vibration. Even speaking about work. If work wasn't uplifting, then we don't speak about work while we're having a meal, because we want our energy to be in the highest vibration possible to be able to receive what it is we're about to feast on.
So Craig mentioned something in the chat, which you very correctly pointed out in my language. Craig says being lazy, quote unquote, also seems to be a taboo. Yes. And I agree with that. I agree with that 100%, that we've got, our society puts upon ideas of what is appropriate and what isn't appropriate, and not working out tends to not be appropriate. Like me sitting on my couch and watching TV is not regarded as healthy, versus me going to the gym is. And like I say, I mean, for me, it's, I trust in my body. I've been physically active my entire life, and I had issues with muscles in my legs that prevented me from being physically active for a while. And now my life situation, it just doesn't feel like motivationally active for me to go and work out. It feels like an effort. And if it feels like an effort, I don't want to do it. And that's, yes. So I haven't been, efforting myself to go and work out simply because it just doesn't feel like it's appropriate. And I know that at some point my body's going to say, okay, I want to go work out, and I'm going to be like, cool, let's go do that.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
so I agree with you, Craig. Being lazy also seems to be a taboo.
Yes. And when we just think of the word lazy, again, looking for words that, and if I pause here and there, it's only because, again, spirit is coming in, giving me some insight, and if I'm talking, I can't hear what they say. So excuse the pauses every once in a while, and the funny faces I make, because sometimes they'll say things and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, what was that? Can you say it again so I can understand? Because sometimes they speak in different languages and I'm like, yeah, not today. So anyway, when we speak of our words, our language, working with higher vibration words are also useful. Whereas rather than using the word lazy, perhaps you can say you're having self-care days, because self-care seems to be the fad these days. We need a self-care day. We need a day where we literally just lay in bed and relax, lay on the couch and relax. So now if you would have referred to it as self-care day, it would have been a whole different conversation of you not being lazy, because that's what society is okay with these days, our self-care. And it's just, again, coming back into the wordings that we use, being in a high vibration. And so many of us, including myself, follow and are led by what society expects us to do. And that definitely falls true in regards to releasing weight. How do we release weight? Why are we releasing weight? What are we restricting ourselves from so we can, in the old terminology that I once used, lose the weight? So it's just coming back into that mindset of what it is we're looking to release, and why do we want to release what it is we're releasing, and what are we going to do so we can do that. And the rest day, or Daniel's word, lazy, could fall right into that category of needing to help him release the weight so he can allow his body to come into a state of relaxation. Because again, when we think of allowing ourselves to be in a more calm, easy space, it also allows us to release whatever resistance we have in our body that might be causing the weight gain, because our body holds on to whatever energies we have going on in our mind, in our physical world. So that relaxation could be part of your process of releasing the weight. So being still, another word that we use these days in the fad, stillness, being still, which then allows us to be more aligned and connected to spirit, so we can gain the insight we need to gain for why we want to release weight.
So the language that we use is very important in the way that we see ourselves and the way in which we relate to our bodies. What I have played with, which I've mentioned already in what I said earlier, one of the things that I would imagine that Joanne Angel plays with the people that she works with is for them to develop a working relationship with their body.
Yes.
An understanding and a communication, a trusting. And that's something that I've always felt very connected to, is like, I know that my body's okay. Like, there was a time when a dentist said that I needed to get a root canal, and I was like, no, I don't. And, I waited 2 or 3 weeks and the pain went away. And I was like, I knew I didn't need a root canal, but he referred me to a specialist, and the specialist insisted that I need a root canal. And I was like, no, I don't. And so I trust in my body. And I've always had that relationship with my body. And so I'm a little heavier than I would like to be, but I know that my body will guide me if it gets to a point where it wants or it needs something different. And so I give my body that space, and my body gives me that space, where we're each giving each other the confirmation and the communication and the collaboration of working together through the choices that I'm making, knowing that if I go too far, my body will let me know, and that I am listening for that message from my body.
Yes, it's interesting you say that, because as you're saying that, what I'm hearing from spirit, and this is like the first time I've ever heard this, so that this is even new for me, is that perhaps the weight that you are holding on to, the extra, as you put it, 30 pounds, may actually be more related to one of the younger versions of yourself. So if you actually took some time, and maybe not right now, and reflect back to your younger years of when you might have held on to weight, perhaps that's the energy that you're holding on to. And there's a reason why you're holding on to that. Now, if you can remember, is there any time in your younger version of yourself where you were a little heavier than usual?
Never. I'm the heaviest I've ever been.
Oh, okay. And during puberty?
Normally, my metabolism has always been so fast that I would need to eat 4 or 5 meals a day, and I wouldn't gain a pound. I was weighing in at 155 pounds when I was in college. After college, I found that my normal body weight was about 165. And then for a number of years, I would play in the 165 to 175. And in the last probably 6 years, since I started having issues with my legs, that's been slowly inching up. So my my natural body weight is in the 165 to 175 range, which is where I lived most of my life, if not less. But speaking of, interestingly enough, when I was at 165 pounds, I had a friend of mine say to me that she liked me a little bit heavier, that I looked better when I had a little more weight on my body.
So your psyche might have taken on that information and agreed with her that, yeah, you might actually look better at that particular weight versus being the weight that you were back then. We really don't know.
Who knows?
This is just insight that's showing up. And it also gives us the permission to accept, as you said earlier, you're okay with the weight that you're at. Yes, you feel you're 30 pounds heavier, to what you compared yourself to when you were younger. And I want to focus on that as well, is because we only have that to compare in regards to what we were when we were younger to what we are now. And then, of course, we can compare our lifestyle, how active we were when we were younger to how maybe not as active as we were when we were younger now. So all of this plays a role in it. But it's also the story we tell ourselves as well. And if we could tell ourselves a different story to justify the weight that we do carry and make it right. And that's really what it is about making it right. We don't have to feel as though we're in the wrong category of weight just because society thinks we're supposed to be a certain weight based on a certain height. You're a man, I'm a woman. So theoretically, when you go to the doctors, they look at a chart and then determine from there, oh, you're overweight, you're obese, whatever. Funny story, when I go to the doctor, my doctor never looks at the chart because he knows what I do for a living. He knows what I've been doing since I'm 12 years old. And in his mind, in fact, my last visit, I had asked him, I says, at the weight that I am right now, do you consider it to be overweight for me? And that was my question to him, overweight for me. And his answer to me was, and I appreciated his answer, and it was, if you feel the weight that you're at right now is overweight for you, you know exactly what you need to do so you can be at the weight you desire to be. So he didn't say to me, well, yes, you are, or no, you're not, or he literally just put it right back onto me. If you feel you're heavier than what you desire to be, then you know what you need to do to be the desired weight you want to be. So I had to just sit with that. And then I connected with spirit. I asked my mom, the weight that I'm at right now, is this an unhealthy weight for me? And I got the answer I received was, no, it's not unhealthy. You're not at risk. Continue doing it the way you're doing, and you'll be fine. And I think here again, the takeaway for all of us is to get to that place on the weight that we carry. Is it our own words and thinking that we are overweight, or did someone say that you're overweight? And what exactly is overweight when we really think about it? Besides the definition that we have from the health industry, which in my opinion, they need to change the definition to really be more aligned with the energy that we're moving into in the 21st century, where we do have more and more people who are carrying weight in a different way, because it could be leaner, the energy we hold on, and everybody's body is made up very differently just by energy in itself. There are some people that just are bigger people just based on their energy that they carry. And no matter what they do to focus on releasing the weight so they could be a specific weight, their bodies are just designed to be that size. And I think that's an important thing that we have to take into consideration. And to be easy on ourselves, that again, if we're constantly focused on needing to release the weight and we don't have our why in order, it adds resistance to our energy, which is another reason why we hold on to weight, because we have so much resistance to it.
I was having a conversation the other day with somebody about weight gain. And I mentioned that one of the things that we come across in the spiritual conversations of past life regression and weight loss and weight gain is that this idea of weight gain is a protection mechanism that the body goes into. And I mentioned it as a comment because the individual that I was speaking to was judging themselves with this weight gain, and they've had a very difficult year dealing with recent loss. And I brought up the idea that, well, maybe your body is gaining the weight as a protection, to give you more energy to deal with the challenges that you've been facing. I mean, I honestly, the weight that we have in some way, shape, or form serves a purpose. Otherwise, we wouldn't have it. We would choose something different. Our higher self would choose something different.
Exactly. And I love the way you use the word protection, because that really goes in perfect alignment to when I said earlier about calling in the weight, in regards to whatever the contracts are that each and every one of us has with the different people we have them with, and also with weight as well. And understanding that the weight that we carry in this lifetime could also be contributed to the past life experiences we've had, the childhood experiences we've had, the things that we have chosen to take on for other people as well. And that, I think, plays a big role too, because we do that. Just as we will take on someone else's grief or anger or even pain, we can very well take on someone's weight for whatever the reasons to why. I mean, some people might sit back and say, well, why on earth would I want to take on someone else's weight? I asked myself a question in reference to, like, what made me decide to take on the contracts I took on in this lifetime? But I did. And it's not something that we are logically sitting and having a conversation about. This is all spiritually related based on contracts that we're here to do in this lifetime. And some people just carry the weight for their sole purpose of their contract. And no matter how much they may try to release that weight, again, that protection, that weight is protecting them from something. And when we think about where the average person holds their weight in general, most of the time it's in the lower chakras, the solar plexus, sacral, and the root. And when we think of that, it's all about survival and protection. It's all about what it is we want to create or not create. And it's all about what we're trusting and what we're not trusting. So it really makes a lot of sense to why we would carry most of our weight in the lower portion of the chakras versus the upper. There's very few that carry a lot of weight in the upper portion compared to those who carry a lot of weight in the midsection on down. But it's all contract related, I believe, and to help us feel protected and to feel safe, especially when someone may go through a lot of traumas such as loss, grief. You know, when you lose a loved one, I mean, what does that do to the person who loses their loved one? They no longer feel that actual physical protection from that loved one because theoretically in our minds, that person's not physically there. So there could be a very good reason why that person has called in the weight at that particular time for the protection, to feel safer, to feel even more grounded too, because when we think of weight grounds us.
And so I think that for me, this conversation is all about opening up the way in which we see our own weight in different ways. And one of the things that you mentioned earlier triggered a thought in my mind about the fact that we have this perception that as we get older, our metabolism slows down because we've been told that since we were little. And so our bodies will react because we have this perceptual idea that they're going to slow down. Now, I know that my metabolism right now is slower than it was when I was, in my 30s or even 40s. And how much of that is my circumstance, how much of it is my idea of what's supposed to happen as I get older. I know that we're all playing in the space. Well, let me rephrase that. Many of us that are playing in the spiritual space are beginning to explore the idea that our bodies are getting younger as we expand our awareness. Our cells are regenerating and are becoming younger, quote unquote, younger, as we expand our vibration and expand our awareness.
I want to ask you a question, Daniel.
Go for it. As
you said, you know that your metabolism is getting slower. How do you know that?
I have not been able to. So when I was younger, I was hungry all the time. And I would eat meals constantly. I would have a full meal before, around midnight. And everybody used to say, oh, if you eat late at night before you go to sleep, you're going to gain weight. I was like, that's not going to happen. My body will burn it off. I'm no longer eating as much as I did. And so my metabolism has slowed down. Now, again, whether or not that's...
Hold that thought. And I hate to cut you off, but it's right there. When you were younger, you were still in the process of figuring out your life. You're an adult now, and you have fulfilled and filled your journey. You're not as hungry as you were when you were younger. So therefore, you don't need as much food now as you did then, because what actually fills you up now is the joy of what you do. Your joy is your fuel. So you don't actually need to eat as much food to nourish and fill you up with joy. So I don't necessarily believe that's the best way to define your metabolism being slower, because I think it really is about your hunger. Your hunger scale is different now, because now you are literally filled. I mean, how much joy do you have in your life doing what you're doing right now?
Is that a question, or is that a rhetorical question?
You can answer it. How much joy do you have doing what you do right now?
I am really enjoying my life, but I'm not enjoying my life any more so than I did before.
Well, I think what it is now now, and I mean, I can't speak of before because I didn't know you, but I think now there's just this conscious awareness of how much you enjoy your life and that you are really living, you are in your life. So you don't necessarily need the specific foods that you might have needed when you were younger.
Sure. We'll go with that.
You know, so I think that plays a huge role. So it comes back to what you said before. Society teaches us or tells us that as we get older, our metabolism slows down. That's another thing we have to release. We have to release that definition that just because we've gotten older, our metabolism slows down. Or that, well, if you eat before bed, you're going to put on weight. That's another thing we have to release out, because reality of it all is if you're choosing to eat before bed for whatever the reasons to why, we're back to our why, there's a reason why you're doing that. And if we can, again, retrain the brain, shift the mindset of all these philosophies that we've been schooled on over the last give and take 50 to 100 years, depending on how old we all are, it's a lot of philosophies that have to be released. Because once we learn to release a lot of these, I'm using the word myths, we will literally create a different shift with our body and food and realize that, you know what, if we choose to want to eat before bed, that's a choice we're choosing. If we're choosing to want to lay on the couch all day, that's a choice we're choosing. And it should have no bearings on how our body reacts to what we are and what we're not doing. In fact, interesting story, true story. I was working with a friend of mine a couple of years ago, last year. He's a colleague and a friend, but he's not a client. And we were having this whole conversation about creating a new relationship with food and not dieting. And he was holding on to that conversation. So what he ended up doing was he wanted to put to the test what it was I shared with him about having a healthier relationship with food and allowing yourself to give the food a sense of meaning, as opposed to thinking, well, I can't have this or I can't have that, and indulging. So what he did for 30 days, he made the conscious effort that every time he ate something, and it didn't matter what it was, it could have been donuts, it could have been ice cream, it could have been a healthy meal, whatever it was he ate, he gave the calories something to do. He aligned himself with his chakras, knowing that he was connecting with his food. And by doing that for 30 days, over a 30 to 60 day period, he released 30 pounds. He didn't diet. He didn't change the way he did his workouts. All he did was change how he thought about food and the relationship he had with his food, where it wasn't about, well, if I eat this is what's going to happen to me, or I'm going to get tired, or it's going to cause me to feel bloated. And there were a lot of foods that he ate prior that he did experience bloat, and he continued to eat those foods, but shifted the whole mindset of this particular food I'm about to eat is going to serve me for my most highest good. And I'm going to utilize these calories for my most highest good. And 60 days later, he called me up and he says to me, oh my God, your method works. And I was like, my method? What are we talking about? And he says, the whole thing about shifting your relationship with food. I said, oh, tell me, share. And he did. And he says, 30 pounds lighter. And I didn't change anything about what I ate. I just changed the relationship with my food, my mindset. I let go of the lower vibration thoughts. And my whole life is different because I can eat everything and anything I choose to eat, as long as I align myself with my highest vibration while eating. And that's really what it is for today. If anyone takes anything away today, that's the message. Is shifting the mindset, letting go of the last 50 to 100 years of what we've been programmed into thinking that our metabolism is going to slow down because we're older. If we're sitting on the couch for the day, we're lazy. If we have the ice cream before bedtime, we're going to get fat. All those messages are all negative. And if we can just shift it to something higher vibration and enjoy and fill yourself up, where you're not hungry so much for the food because you're filled with the joy that's going on in your life and you feel good in your body. And I think that's the shift of releasing weight with ease. And we release the resistance that society has us thinking that weight is such a bad thing. Weight is not a bad thing.
There's something that you touch on, which is aligned with a lot of the ideas that are talked about in the spiritual conversation of expanding our awareness and connecting with our source, and all of the things that many of us talk about and are exposed to, which is this idea that the only limitation that we have is the perceptual beliefs that we're holding on to.
Yes.
There's nothing we cannot do. And I talk about this all the time. I'm still learning it myself. So, hand up. It is still kind of a work in progress for me. But if I am the energy of all that is, and I am the energy that creates worlds, there is no reason why my body needs to react in any given way, whatever definition I am imposing on it. And I think that's the invitation that Joanne Angel's talking about, is, the beliefs that we have around our body and around weight. It's an opportunity for us to just let them go and to shift that perspective into something grander, something greater, something more expansive, something more supportive, as opposed to being a limitation. It's about the abundance. I love eating ice cream. And, if I want to eat ice cream before I go to bed, I do. I don't, if that's the craving that I have, I enjoy it. And years ago, I heard this idea that we can invite spirit to enjoy the things that we do. And so I do. When I'm eating my dried apricots, which I love, I invite spirit to enjoy that with me. When I'm eating my ice cream, I invite spirit to enjoy that with me for what it's worth. So it's something that I play with. I don't really give it much importance or much value, and what's the benefit of it, I don't even know. But I know that I enjoy it, and I know that spirit enjoys things vicariously through me. And so I love inviting spirit to enjoy the things that I do.
Exactly. And 1 second, it's coming through. I thought it came through and it stopped for a minute. When we think about the word limiting ourselves when it comes to food, we also want to realize that the limitations and the restrictions that we put on food also translates out to everything else in our lives. So when we restrict ourselves and limit ourselves from things that we really want to have, ice cream, and that seems to be the key tonight, the topic, we're also sending out the message that we're not allowed to have other things too, because there is no, as I like to say, spirit does not have a column that, okay, the restriction's only for here. Restriction is everywhere. So it really is about, do you really want to restrict or limit yourself from all the greatness in the world? Not just your food, because it's not just going to be about food. It's everything. So that whole mindset of have what it is you want to have and enjoy. And like Daniel said, and I love that too, invite spirit in to enjoy with you and have these conversations with spirit to get in the habit of recognizing that, again, food is just energy, and that's what it does for our body. And it doesn't matter if it's salad or ice cream, it's energy. And as I said earlier, if it's going to help fuel our inner child's cravings, because that's how I refer to it as, then I want to help my inner child feel good, to feel happy, to feel excited about what she's allowed to have for that day or every day. And we're allowed to have everything. with no restrictions.
There's this reminder, and it's just another way of saying exactly what you said, but one of the people that I listen to, the energy that channels through them will constantly tell us that if you resist something, you're resisting everything.
Exactly. Yes.
And that's kind of this idea. And there's a couple comments in the chat that I want to kind of reference because it speaks to this. It speaks to this idea. And so Kitty talks about how she was 60 pounds thinner than she is now, and she used to tell herself that she was fat. And we've all heard stories of people doing this, and the perception that they create of what is appropriate or what is their desired weight. And she talks about how she refuses to weigh herself more than once a year, and she feels that her weight is better now because she accepts herself. And
yes,
you know, we hear this all the time, that when we learn to accept ourselves for who we are, our bodies are going to come to its natural weight or its natural balance. And that, like we've talked about, that may fluctuate from moment to moment for a number of myriad different reasons. But to be comfortable with it and to accept it and to love it as is. And then Bev talks about how I was always withholding things I really, really wanted until I lost the weight. For 30 years, I didn't let myself get the help I needed or the things I really wanted. I was miserable and finally realized I'm not happy, quote unquote, or in brackets, or maybe my guides. So go and do the things you want and need. After changing this attitude and giving herself the things that she was withholding, she started losing the weight and found herself being happier.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, that's a perfect example of everything that she speaks of, the resistance that she had to what she wasn't allowing herself to have. So all that resistance, when we think of weight in itself, like a dumbbell, that's resistance, and it carries weight. So when we release the resistance of whatever our reasons to why we think we should be a certain weight or why we call ourselves fat, and we release that over time, and it's not going to be an overnight process. It's an over time. By releasing that energy, because that's what it is, we will move into a different shape in our body by releasing all the tension we put on our bodies, our minds, our emotions, our psyche. And I also want to just turn the page a little bit when we speak of weights. You know, one of my pet peeves lately, especially when watching different platforms, different people sharing about their weight training journeys, in regards to why so many people nowadays are lifting weights. I believe that many people have a really misconception to lifting weights. In theory, when we lift weight, it's not about losing weight or releasing weight. When you lift weight, your ideal goal here is to actually put on lean muscle, to get stronger. But yet the general population that lifts weight, their main focus is, how can I lose weight when I'm lifting weight? And the two don't go in the same sentence. You are not supposed to lose weight or release weight. When I work with my clients on the physical aspects of things as the personal trainer, our goal is not about them releasing weight. Our goal is really about what they're lifting so they can be a healthier version of themselves, a stronger version of themselves. And if they do end up losing or releasing a few pounds from the scale, that's just a bonus for them, not the primary goal. Because again, when we lift weights, ideally muscle weight, weighs more than, and there's no other nice way of putting this, than fat weight. And that's just what it is. One is not going to be able to lean up or lean down and literally be a lighter weight, assuming they're doing it the right way. And there's so many people out there, coming back to the food aspect, that restricts themselves from fueling their bodies so they can reach that society healthy weight. And it's just, from my mind, it's just like, am I allowed to curse on this? Okay.
Of course. Sure. Why not?
Spirit wanted me to ask that before I said it, because I'm not really one to curse. It's like ask backwards. It's like somebody that spends time in the gym lifting weights, and then they're restricting their calories, and it's bizarre to me. It's like, how do you expect to see the results you're looking to get from the gym if you're spending time lifting weights? The ideal there is to get lean and strong. It's not about losing weight. And anyone who here is watching and are working out, if your goal for weightlifting is to lose weight, you need a different goal, because that's sabotaging your whole process to why you lift weights. And again, it creates a lot of resistance in your body. So you're not easing into your workouts when you work out. Your body holds on to all that tension to your reasons to why you're lifting weights. And weight training for me is really about, how can I make my body healthier and stronger for me? And I'm hoping that would be for anybody else who lifts weights. It's not about losing weight and becoming smaller. And ideally, yes, when you lean down, your body looks different because it's more lean and the weight itself is distributed differently. So everything sort of lifts up and gets back into its sort of place, so to speak. You know, so to me, it's just one of my pet peeves where it's like, why would they put this restriction and limitation on their food intake when they are actually in the gym lifting weights? And let's talk about metabolism there. I mean, ideally, if someone is lifting weights and they're doing it with intensity, there's an 8-hour afterburn. So your body is utilizing more and more fuel after that workout. So it's really important to make sure you have that healthy relationship with food, that you can go and indulge and fuel yourself back up. So this way here, you can get the benefits of spending time in the gym or wherever you work out. What are your thoughts on that, Daniel?
I think that it comes down to understanding how things work. Because a lot of times we go into, well, let me do that because this is what other people are doing. And, you know, I'm going to lift weights so that I can, you know, be thinner and lose weight. And, you know, to your point, I mean, muscle weight is heavier than fat weight.
Yeah.
So if the intention is to lose weight, that's kind of like, it's not going to be the same thing. And I think that part of that is a nice metaphor for the way that many of us start playing with fixing, quote unquote, our emotional baggage, our emotional traumas, our emotional problems, our issues, is that we kind of blindly go into doing what others are doing without really understanding, how does the system actually work? How does my mind actually work? How does my body actually work? And it's not to say that there's one answer to that, but at least if you start to do some research and you start to understand how things work in the background, how the system works, then you can be more effective in utilizing the choices that you do to accomplish the things that you want to accomplish. Have it be spiritual growth, mental health, physical growth, or loss in the case of letting go of weight and releasing weight, or whatever the case may be. I think it speaks to that idea of looking behind the superficial aspect of what it is that you're doing to truly get to the core of how things work in the background.
Exactly. You know, and I don't know if you know this about me, Daniel, and if you don't, you're gonna learn something new. I was a competitive bodybuilder. And being a competitive bodybuilder for many years, I had that mindset. And this is, of course, way before I started my spiritual journey and really understanding this whole process of energy and having a healthier relationship with food. During that time in my life where I was competing and working at that point where, yes, society, there was a certain weight I had to be to go in the weight category that I was looking to go in, based on, of course, being female and being a certain height. I needed to be a certain weight, and I had to get to that certain weight by time competition day. And it's so interesting because so many people follow, I don't know if we want to use the word celebrities or just people out there who demonstrate this certain physical physique. And the truth of it is, as a competitive bodybuilder, I had a six-pack for 4 hours. 4 hours, I had a six-pack. The average person says that 4 hours. How do you know you had? Well, I had a six-pack. My abdominal muscles were carved in for 4 hours. The 4 hours I competed for my competition, from early morning until my night show, or past my night show, my abs were defined. Came the next day, and I looked in the mirror, my six-pack was gone. And that's the real reality too, when one cuts back on calories and restricts their fat intake so they can lean down for definition and striations and six-packs to show up. The average person that we see out there walking around with their six-pack, theoretically, I can almost guarantee that person does not have a six-pack every day of their life. They are on a very restricted dietary plan for the time that they're going to either have their photo shoot or whatever event they're going through for that process. And that's why, for me, doing what I do now with the spiritual aspect of it all, as the holistic personal trainer, understanding that and really focusing on educating my clients and future clients, is to get them to understand that this belief of wanting to be that lean is not humanly possible on a day-to-day. You can get there for a very short period of time with restricting yourself so you can get there. And is that really healthy?
I think that something that I want to bring up, which is related to what you're talking about, but in a different kind of perspective, is every single one of us is different. Every single body in which we are living in reacts and responds differently to food and exercise. I don't build muscle as quickly as other colleagues and friends of mine in the past, where, you know, we did the same exercises and they get bigger and I don't. My muscles don't build that way. I had a friend of mine who was really thin. Her body was really thin, and she used to always be accused of being anorexic. And she was like, this is what my body is. And I think that what you're talking about, to me, reminds me of recognizing what is natural for our bodies and going to an extreme of, if my body is lean, you know, for example, when I was in college, I had, God, I want to say 7 or 6% body fat.
Okay.
And I was told by the physical trainers that they wouldn't let me play squash because I didn't have enough fat in my body. And I said to them, I've been playing squash for years. I've been playing all kinds of sports for years. Why do you think that all of a sudden I can't play simply because a number says that my body fat is too low? And the reason that I bring this up is if your body happens to be ripped naturally and you're not restricting your food intake in order to achieve it, perfect. There's nothing
Yes.
wrong with that. There's nothing
Exactly.
wrong with that. So what I just want to kind of bring up is know what your body naturally does and be okay with that. And if you happen to be one of those bodies that rips easily and shows a six-pack every day of your life with very little effort, then perfect. And if it's not,
Exactly.
then perfect.
Exactly.
Either way, you're living your body in a way that's natural for it and healthy for it, based on, having a perspective on food that energizes your body and gives it what it needs to function in a way that supports its greater good and your greater good. And so that's the message that I just want to share.
Yes, no, and I love that message. I do. And there are many people out there that do carry a lower body fat count, and it's easier for them to maintain that lean look. But there are just as many that don't. And unfortunately, those are the ones that are comparing themselves to the ones that do, or the ones that may not, but they're doing whatever they're doing so they can. And it creates this whole, again, we're going to use the word resistance, that we put on our bodies, where we want our bodies to look a certain way. And then we do whatever we can to get to that look, where it takes away that ease in our body. And when our body's not at ease, our body creates resistance. And that's where we need to work on the releasing the weight so we can have ease. And it may not necessarily be about food. It could just be about the wording, the things we're expecting our bodies to do that our bodies are just not energetically designed to do, based on this lifetime, based on the contracts that each and every one of us have chosen to go through in this lifetime, and to be in the body that we are in. And even more importantly, just appreciate the body that you are in is the key.
There's something that you're saying here which reminds me of the comments that have been shared by both Kitty and Bev, which both point to the fact that when they started to give less importance to aspects of the way that they perceive themselves, and they started leaning towards being comfortable and doing what they enjoyed, their bodies naturally became, quote unquote, healthier. It found a weight that was more in line with what they perceive as being a healthy weight. And I think that that's a really nice reminder that if we do what we enjoy, that is where we're going to get the greatest pleasure out of it, and the greatest input and the greatest benefit from it.
Exactly.
Not from a perspective of, I do this so that others can see me differently, but I do this because I enjoy it.
Exactly.
And so if you're working out because you enjoy it, fantastic, enjoy. If you enjoy, the idea of restricting food, to me, just doesn't seem like enjoyment.
No.
That doesn't seem like pleasure to me.
Exactly.
The whole idea, the language in that, restricting food is not enjoyment. It's restrictive. It's withholding. It's less than. It's counterintuitive in that sense.
Yes, exactly. And it's all about shifting the wordings and moving into the higher vibrations, and not restricting, not using the word, I can't do this, or I'm limited on that, or I'm only allowed to have but so much of this. All of those words create that restriction and doesn't serve our body.
So for those of you that are with us live, if you have any questions or comments or anything that you want to bring up, feel free to, put it in the chat or raise your hand. We're happy to bring into the conversation. I don't know if this is a good time for you to play with your cards and to kind of allow your team to share some things that they might want to share that may be in line with the conversation or something different. How do you feel about that?
They're here. My cards always want to be played with. Always want to be played with. Even before pulling a card, what I'm hearing from Spirit is our solar plexus is an extremely strong chakra point, sits in our bellies. And we need to learn how to listen to our solar plexus. So if our solar plex, our consciousness is saying we want to have whatever the food is we want to have it. Have it. 90% of the time, our solar plex isn't going to say we can't have something. When we're using the words can't or limited, that's coming from our ego, that's coming from society. Because when we are connected with our higher consciousness is going to lead us with higher vibration words. And that's how we know we're being led through our higher consciousness versus our ego and what society thinks we should or should not do. So our first card with that, perfect, change. Isn't that what we've been talking about the entire time? Changing the internal dialogue, changing the mindset, coming away from using words as we can't have, or we're limited, or that resistance. Throat chakra is what we do say to ourselves, the internal dialogue. And I know for myself, prior to this whole journey of really connecting spiritually, I was one of those who were really calorie oriented. Tracked my calories, made sure I only had so many calories in my day, just to maintain that certain weight that theoretically I either looked good or felt good in, whichever one, and maybe neither. That 5 energy is about moving to your freedom when it comes to having a healthy relationship with food and having a healthy relationship with your body, because that is really the key. That's the key concept to releasing weight, is when you have a healthy relationship with the two. Food was meant to be eaten, which is why we have food. It was meant to be eaten, meant to be enjoyed, meant to sit and embrace with. So enjoy it, have your freedom. Does anybody resonate with that change and freedom and just healthy relationship with our bodies and food? Yes. The next card. It's in reverse. And reverse just means that there might be a little bit of resistance. The message here is that master teacher, and every one of us are a master teacher. The master teacher is reminding us that we are the master healer to our bodies. If we work with our spirit guides, we work with our higher consciousness, and we have that internal dialogue with, we will receive the guidance we need so we can heal our body, our mind, our spirits, and our emotions. And we don't necessarily have to be guided by 50-year-old information that has not changed in years. In fact, funny story, and I don't know how many of you follow, forget what association it is, but in reference to the food pyramid. In the last, I think, 5 years, they have changed the food pyramid at least 6 times to try to figure out the best way to get us all to eat whatever portion of the food we're supposed to be eating. because they haven't figured it out yet. But thank goodness, those of us who are connected with our higher consciousness, moving out of that 3D way of doing things and really becoming more tuned to our 5D energy. Remember, we are the master healers. Visualize how you feel in your body. Visualize your healthy body, whatever that looks like for you. And remember that what you focus on is what your reality becomes. So however you see yourself in the healthiest version of you, create it. That's what this message is all about. That 11 energy is you are the master healer to your body. And just to remember that. Should I pull one more?
Sure, go for it.
Anyone have comments? I saw one pop up. I just didn't read it.
Yeah, I'll read it after you pull the next card.
Okay. Balance. I love the words we're getting today. Balance. And I think balance is a good one, because there really is some truth to balance when it comes to our body, our mind, our spirit, and our emotions. And moving into that ease, knowing that your body's balanced and your body's in balance when we can learn to have healthier relationships with it and with food, with our exercises, with whatever it is that we do. Everything comes into balance. I like to believe that my ratio when working with clients based on my fueling and feeding, it's a 70-30%. You can indulge 30% of your calories, and the other 70%, eat balance. And this way here, you're allowing yourself to have whatever it is you want. And when I say eat 30%, I'm not saying have one day where you indulge. No, 30% every day, 7 days of the week. Eat how you choose. Have a better relationship with the food. Have compassion for yourself. Enjoy, enjoy, enjoy. Because when you enjoy your food and you have that relationship with the food, you're going to feel good about your food. You're going to love your food. And you're going to love your body just the same. The number is 76, which is 13, which is 4. And when we think of 4 in numerology, it's about our foundation. And your body is your foundation. Your body is your temple. So treat it with balance. Treat it with love. Enjoy the food you like. Don't restrict.
There's something you said there that reminded me of something I used to say many years ago and still do, which is I watch what I eat so I can eat whatever I want. Because I've always eaten relatively healthy. And whenever people would ask, well, why do you eat that? Well, I eat this way so that when I want to indulge in an ice cream, I can eat the ice cream without any second thought, knowing that the majority of the time I'm watching what I eat. And watching is not the right term, but I eat healthy knowing that I can indulge in whatever I want, whenever I want, without any quote unquote consequences, where there's a balance. And I think that that's really important, is to have that balance.
Yes, yes.
And the comment that was in the chat is from Sabrina, who says, I want to live in the space that whatever I eat and drink, my body is perfectly metabolized and I maintain the perfect body that I desire and release extra weight. Most days I don't think about it until I'm done eating. Thank you for sharing our hidden beliefs. Now my goal is to be satisfied and in the higher vibration.
Excellent. The only request I'm going to make on that question that she posed is to let go of the word want and use the word am. I am, and own it. Own it. State it and be it. Because when we use the word I am, we are. When we use the word I want, we're still in that space. So just own it. Contest it, be it.
And the one thing that I'll add to this conversation is the idea of and the language has some connotations to it, but the idea of appreciating the food that we're about to eat, whatever that might be, like we've been talking about, and we've been using ice cream as an example because a lot of people have a lot of negative ideas around ice cream. Enjoy it and appreciate it as you are about to consume it. Give it thanks, give it gratitude for being with you. And the thing that Joanne Angel talked about earlier, which I've been reminded time and time again by Spirit, is that we are alchemists. Our bodies are alchemizing everything we eat into energy. And if we can lean into that alchemy, which is a natural part of our physiological being and our energetic being, there's nothing we can't consume because we will convert it into energy. Exactly. And again, like, Joanne Angel was talking about, what we are focusing our attention on is what we're going to attract, what we're going to create in the way that we see ourselves in our body, but also in the way that we see the way that we process food. There's examples that I've heard over time of somebody that, went out and ate a bucket of fried chicken and felt bloated and kind of, uncomfortable. And then weeks later or months later came across the idea that it's the mindset that makes the difference. And he went back and ate a bucket of chicken thinking, oh, this is going to be really healthy and really great for me, and my body's going to really take this, and felt energized and didn't feel bloated and yucky or icky as he did, months before. And it just kind of points to this idea that we're talking about, is how you perceive your food is going to have a huge impact on how your body reacts to it. And so as we give ourselves permission to shift, and I love the invitation of owning it and saying, I can eat whatever I want and my body will react to it in a healthy way, releasing anything that isn't helpful to it. I love that invitation and owning that. Yes, I already live in that space. I'm already creating that space.
Yes. It is a mindset, and it's all this old information that every one of us have downloaded for years and years and years, that we can now turn around and say, we're going to erase all of that. And we're going to create some new ways of thinking about food, the new relationships. We don't have to be bloated. We don't have to not have something to eat if we want to before bedtime. We can do whatever it is we want, because we're going to create new ways of communicating with ourselves and with the food we're about to eat. And as a Reiki master, Reiki teacher, another fun thing that we could do when we do eat, before we eat, is once we do have the food in front of us, we can apply a little Reiki energy over our food. Give, as Daniel said already, bless the food, give it gratitude, appreciate it, energize it, and then enjoy it. And enjoy everything. And I think that's the whole process of releasing weight with ease. We don't need a diet pill. We don't need diets. We don't have to restrict. We don't have to have icky amounts of things that we don't really want to eat. And we sit there like, oh, I love this. And in our minds, we're like, oh my God, do I really have to eat this again? No, you don't, because we're going to shift the mindset. We're going to come up with higher vibration words and just appreciate, love, and embrace what it is we're going to eat.
You reminded me that my Reiki teacher, when she's preparing any meal, she is infusing it with Reiki energy. And for those of you that have not, quote unquote, learned Reiki, it's a really simple workaround. All Reiki is the energy of life.
Yes.
That's it.
That's all it is.
That's all Reiki is the energy of life. And it's a conscious use of that energy of life in intentions around healing and energizing and things like that. So even if you haven't been a Reiki teacher or a Reiki master or even taken Reiki classes, when you are preparing your food, if you put the intention for the energy of life to infuse the food with high vibrational energy, that's exactly what it'll do. And that is quote unquote Reiki. So
Yes.
we can all do it.
Exactly. And just to add a little bit more fun, because we spoke about Reiki, for anyone who's interested and work with crystals, 3 really great crystals to work with in reference to elevating the energy of food and just aligning our energy with the food: amethyst, citrine, rose quartz. Beautiful crystals to work with. You could place them right by you on your table when you're about to eat. The vibrations that come off the crystals are amazing, and they will help you activate that positive energy, just the healing your body as you're indulging in whatever it is you want to eat. Food is so beautiful. Enjoy it.
So I'm conscious of the time. There is an invitation for people to work with Joanne Angel directly in a couple of different ways. She has a free offering to anybody that is interested in connecting with her and having her do kind of a mini reading for you. And then she also has a discounted rate for anybody that wants to work with her and sign up to a longer program, which is more inclusive and gives you a lot of information from all of different perspectives so that you can figure out what is a good roadmap for you to take going forward. Do you want to talk about those a little bit, Joanne Angel?
Maybe if I can remember them. I do have one written.
And so
Yes.
to just kind of refresh your memory, the free giveaway is a 15-minute complimentary cosmic energy soul reading.
Thank you. Yes. And the other one I wrote down, so I do have that one.
And yes. Then the invitation for a longer kind of level of involvement is what you refer to as a soul growth discovery session.
Yes.
Which in the description, you can see what it kind of covers, and she will look at your situation from a number of different perspectives to give you both a understanding of where you are as an individual, and then you can collectively figure out how to move forward from there. Yeah. Paraphrasing what Joanne Angel shared with me about what her offer is.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, so on the one where it's a $33 discount off the overall package, and that package really depends on which way you go about, if you want 6 month or 12-year. It includes, we focus, of course, on your health, fitness, wellness, emotions, and your spiritual needs. So it's not just about your physical, it's the whole, because we are a whole body. And I use up to anywhere between 6 to 9 cards of my 45 cards deck, which I shuffle. I have you shuffle now because it's virtual. I do all the shuffling. Whatever shows up in between the 6 to 9 are the cards we work with. Some of you might be asking, well, how do I determine 6 or 9? I don't, Spirit does. That's the best answer I have there for you. I incorporate astrology and numerology into this reading, your personal energy and the collective energy as well, based on the 6 or 9 cards that do show up. Out of those cards, more often than none, there will be one color, which is associated with the chakra, that shows up more frequently. So there may be, if there's 9 cards, you might have 3 green colors, which lets me know that it's the heart center that we have to focus on. Maybe it's the yellow, it's the solar plex. So generally speaking, to start off with, that would be the chakra point that we focus on to dive in. We clear energy from that chakra based on whatever the chakra is holding on to from either past life, childhood experience, or even something that's taken place more recent in your adult life. I clear that energy so we can start fresh in regards to whatever the goals are. During that session, you'll also receive a chakra balance Reiki treatment so we can align the energies as well. So there's a whole lot that goes into that self-growth discovery session with the package, where you'll work with me again 6 months to 12 months. Now, with the work that I do, I guarantee my work. And what I mean by I guarantee my work, as long as you do your work, I guarantee you see results within 30 to 60 days, as long as you do your work. And if you don't do your work, I guarantee you're not going to see results. So there's the guarantee. In regards to the 3-card cosmic energy soul reading, it's exactly that. 3 cards get pulled based on some numerology and your astrology as well. Whatever the cards that show up, we focus in on one particular question you may have. We dive into that question. We see what kind of insight shows up from the 3 cards. I do a little clearing on your energy based on the 3 cards. More likely than none, there's going to be one color that's going to be the key point to clearing energy, and we dive into that. And then from there, you can decide if you want to continue doing work with me or not.
So thank you very much, Joanne Angel, for everything that you've shared and for the conversation, for inviting us to shift our perspective on the way that we see our food and the way that our bodies react to it. For anybody that's listening, that's been with us all day, thank you guys for being here with us. And for those of you that are listening to the recordings, thank you for being part of this conversation as well. Tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon, we will start with Angela Anderson. And that's going to be at 1 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. And we will continue the conversation then. So until then, I will leave you guys with being spirit, being human, simply being from love. And Joanne Angel, once again, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you for being part of this incredible experience. We hope that this session has inspired a new level of understanding within you, allowing you to expand more easily into the essence of your true self and become an even more powerful alchemist in your own life. We invite you to listen to the session again and again in order to go deeper each time and expand even more. Have it be via the replays or the unlimited access package. If you have enjoyed being part of this event, we invite you to tell your friends so that they can join us in the future. We are grateful that you are here, and we thank you for co-creating this experience with us. Until next time, we leave you with being spirit, being human, and simply being from love.